everyone. Welcome back to our YouTube channel Digitalized Learning. Myself Megha. Today I'll be taking the part 2 of metals and non-metals. The part 1 of the metal and non-metal. In the previous video we had discussed topics like physical properties of metals and non-metals, and we also covered the chemical properties of metals. Now in this part of the video we'll be covering topics. There will be 3 topics that are to be covered. The first one will be the reactivity series. The second one would be how do metals and non-metals react, and the third one would be the properties of the ionic compound. Now let us start with the first topic, that is the reactivity series. Now as we can see here, it is written, it is a series of list of metals that are arranged in the order of their decreasing activities, which means that the most active metal, that is the most reactive metal, is placed at the top, and the least reactive metal is placed at the bottom. That is, it is placed in the order of the decreasing activities. Now here we can see potassium, which is placed at the top. It is the most reactive metal, and we can say that it has the potassium now has the capacity to react with cold water, and on reacting with cold water it produces hydroxide and hydrogen gas. Now on the other hand, if we see the in the reactivity series, when we have a look on the magnesium metal, now magnesium's reaction with cold water is slow, but it reacts really fast with boiling water and very vigorously with the acid. And then the gold, which is placed at the bottom of the reactivity series, is said to be the least reactive metal amongst all of them that are placed above it. Now let us discuss few points regarding the reactivity series. Okay, so the metals which are present at the top of the series has the ability to lose electrons more readily, and it forms a positive ions, and it also has the ability to corrode and tarnish easily as compared to the other metals. Okay, now they also require more energy to be separated from their ores, and they become stronger reducing agents. Now on the other hand, the metals which are present at the bottom of the series are good oxidizing agents. Now we may wonder that what is the significance of the reactivity series, like what all are the uses of the reactivity series. So one of the use which we can mention here is that it helps us to predict the products of the displacement reaction. Like it helps us to predict which element, being more reactive, has the capacity to replace the other element from its compound because of being more reactive. Okay, so each element which is placed in the reactivity series can be replaced from its compound by any of the element which is placed above it in the reactivity series, because as it is placed above it in the reactivity series, which means that metal is more reactive as compared to the metal which is present below in the reactivity series, right? So let us consider an example wherein magnesium metal has the ability to displace the zinc ion in a solution, because magnesium metal is more reactive as compared to the zinc, because we can have a look on the reactivity series here, and we can see magnesium has been placed above zinc, which means magnesium is more reactive than zinc, and hence it has the ability to replace zinc from its solution, right? Now one more question, this reactivity series we can see that all the metals have been mentioned, but when we have a look, there's also hydrogen which is present. Now the question arises, why, being a non-metal, hydrogen has been placed here, right? Now hydrogen has one electron in its valence shell, because now hydrogen has been placed amongst these metals because, like metals, hydrogen also has the capacity to lose electron and get converted into a positive ion, and hence now let us have a look on our second topic, that is how do metals and non-metals react. Now before we start with this topic, let us brush up our concept on noble gases. Okay, so now what are noble gases? Noble gases are those which have a completely filled valence shell. Okay, and being completely filled, now being their valence shell being completely filled, they don't have any need to react with any other metal or non-metal, right? So they are less reactive. They show very less activity as well. So this is what we know about noble gases. Now when we talk about the sodium atom has one electron in its outermost shell. Now if it loses that electron which is present in its M shell, then its M shell becomes empty and the outermost shell is now the L shell, right? And it has a stable octet. The nucleus of the atom will still have how many protons? 11 protons, but the number of electrons of this atom still now the number of electrons will become 10, and hence now there is a net positive charge giving us a sodium cation, that is Na plus. Now on the other hand, if we consider the example of chlorine, chlorine has 7 electron in its outermost shell and it requires one more electron to complete its octet. Now if the sodium and chlorine were to react with each other, what will happen is that the electron lost by the sodium could be taken up by the chlorine. Now after gaining an electron, the chlorine atom gets a unit negative charge. Now because its nucleus has 17 protons and there are 18 electrons in its K, L and M shells, chlorine will become a anion, that is Cl minus. So it will become a chloride anion, that is Cl minus. So both these elements have a give and take relation between them as follows. We can see here we have written Na having 2, 8, 1, that is 1 electron in its outermost shell. It will lose that electron and it will become Na plus, that is 2, 8 with 8 electrons in its outermost shell, and it gets converted into a sodium cation, that is Na plus. On the other hand here, Cl, which has 2, 8, 7, that is 7 electrons in its outermost shell, it requires one more electron to complete its octet. So it is going to accept one electron, or it is going to gain one electron and get converted into a chloride anion, that is Cl minus, with 8 electrons in its outermost shell. And here with the help of a diagram we can see that Na with its 1 electron being shared with Cl gets converted into Na plus, and Cl after gaining that gets converted into an anion, that is Cl minus. And in this way the sodium chloride is being formed. Now sodium and chloride both are oppositely charged and hence they attract each other, and they are held by strong electrostatic forces of attraction between them, and they exist as NaCl. Now here there is also one more example wherein we have Mg reacting with chlorine. Now Mg has 2 electrons in its outermost shell and it has to lose those 2 electrons so as to attain a stable octet configuration, right? So what it will do, it will lose that 2 electron and get converted into magnesium cation, that is Mg2 plus, with 8 electrons in its outermost shell. Now again the chlorine, same as above, it is going to gain 1 electron and get converted into a chloride anion. Now Mg2 plus has 2 electrons to be shared, right? And chlorine can take only 1 electron. One chlorine can take only 1 electron, and hence here we require 2 chlorines. One will be taking 1 electron from the Mg and the other chlorine will be taking the other electron from the Mg, and Mg after losing 2 electrons, it will get converted into Mg2 plus, magnesium cation, and the Cl will take those electrons, and here we will represent Cl minus as Cl minus twice. Okay, we have taken 2 chlorines, and this is the way in which there's formation of magnesium chloride that is taking place. Now let us start with the third topic of the video, that is properties of ionic compound. Now before we start with the properties of ionic compound, we need to know what is ionic compound. Now the compound that are formed by the transfer of electrons from a metal to a non-metal are known as ionic compounds, and they are also known as electrovalent compounds. Now let us move ahead with the properties of ionic compound. The first property being mentioned here is about the physical nature. It has been said that the ionic compounds are solid in nature and they are hard. Why are they hard? Because of the strong forces of attraction that is present between the positive and the negative ions. And it has been said that these compounds are generally brittle. That means even a little amount of pressure applied can lead to the breakage. Okay, it breaks very easily, and hence it is said to be brittle. So this is what is about the physical nature of the ionic compound. Now let us have a look at the melting and the boiling points. Now talking about the melting and boiling points, they have high melting and boiling points. Okay, it has been said that they have a high melting and boiling points. Now what is the reason for it? The reason being that the amount of energy that is required to break the strong interionic attraction is very high, and hence they have a high melting and boiling point. Now talking about the solubility, the electrovalent compounds are generally soluble in water and insoluble in solvents like kerosene, petrol, and etc. Now let us come on to the last topic, that is the conduction of electricity of the ionic compound. Now when we talk about conduction of electricity, we need to consider the two states in which the ionic compounds are present. One is the solid state and the other one is the molten state. Now, the conduction of electricity through a solution generally involves the movement of the charged particles whenever the electricity is passed through a solution, and the solution of an ionic compound in water consists of ions, and these ions, when the electricity is passed through it, they will move towards the oppositely charged electrodes. Now, if the ionic compounds are present in the solid state, it is not able to conduct electricity because being in a solid state, in a rigid structure, the movement of the particles is prohibited, or the particles are not able to move, because of which the electricity cannot be passed through it. But if the ionic compounds are present in the molten state, it is possible to conduct the electricity through it. This is possible in the molten state since the electrostatic forces of attraction between the oppositely charged ions are overcome due to the heat. They are able to overcome because of the heat, and thus the ions move freely, and as the ions move freely, the conduction of electricity becomes possible, and hence electricity can be conducted in ionic compounds when it is in the molten state.